You know what's more terrifying than crashing a motorcycle? Building one from scratch that costs more than most people's houses, and discovering you forgot how brakes work. Yeah, that happened. So here's the thing, nobody tells you about custom motorcycles. The difference between a cool bike and a death trap is about 3 millimeters and one bad decision at 2 a.m. And I'm about to show you exactly how I learned that lesson while trying to build something that shouldn't exist. A Rolls-Royce motorcycle. Now, before you ask, no, Rolls-Royce doesn't make motorcycles. They stopped in 1925 because, apparently, they figured out that putting their logo on two wheels wasn't exactly the safest branding move. But I'm not known for making smart decisions, so naturally I thought, what if we brought it back? What if we took everything that makes a Rolls-Royce a Rolls-Royce? The luxury, the craftsmanship, that ridiculous spirit of ecstasy hood ornament, and crammed it onto a motorcycle frame. The problem started the moment I said this out loud. Because suddenly, I wasn't just building a motorcycle anymore. I was making a statement. And statements are expensive. Let me paint you a picture of where this began. I'm standing in my garage at midnight, staring at a bare motorcycle frame that cost me $2,000, holding a notebook with sketches that look like a 5-year-old drew them. And I've got exactly 90 days to turn this into something that won't just look incredible, but actually, work. No pressure. The first challenge was figuring out what even makes something a Rolls-Royce. Is it the badge? The materials? That weird sense that you're too poor to even look at it? After about 40 hours of research and way too much coffee, I narrowed it down to 3 things: presence, craftsmanship, and details that most people will never notice but somehow make all the difference. So I started with presence. A Rolls-Royce doesn't enter a room, it announces itself. How do you do that with a motorcycle? The answer is size and proportion, and most sport bikes crouch low like they're ready to pounce. Cruisers stretch out long and lazy. But a Rolls-Royce? It sits upright, proud, almost defiant. So I needed a frame that was longer than normal, higher than comfortable, and just wide enough to make people wonder if it could actually fit through a standard garage door. I found this custom frame builder in Arizona, who thought I was joking at first. When I sent him the specs, he called me back and said, "You know this is going to handle like a yacht, right?" Perfect. That's exactly what a Rolls-Royce on 2 wheels should feel like. But here's where things got complicated. That frame alone cost me $8,000, and we hadn't even talked about the engine yet. Now, Rolls-Royce engines are legendary. Smooth, powerful, whisper quiet. Motorcycle engines are the opposite. They scream, they vibrate, they let everyone within 2 blocks know you exist. I needed something in between. After weeks of searching, I found this vintage BMW Boxer engine, the kind they used in their high-end touring bikes. It's not Rolls-Royce, but it's German, it's over-engineered, and it has that low, smooth power delivery that wouldn't feel out of place in a luxury car. $12,000 for a used engine. I didn't sleep well that night. The craftsmanship part is where I almost gave up entirely. You know what makes Rolls-Royce interiors special? It's not just leather and wood. It's that every single stitch is perfect. Every panel gap's exactly 2 millimeters. Every surface flows into the next like it was always meant to be there. Doing that with a motorcycle, which is basically a bunch of mechanical parts held together by hope and gasoline, is borderline impossible. I hired this leather craftsman who used to work on custom car interiors. The seat alone took him 37 hours. He hand-stitched every seam, used this buttery soft leather that costs more per square foot than my rent, and created this quilted pattern that's subtle enough to be classy, but detailed enough that you can't stop staring at it. When he showed me the finished seat, I genuinely got emotional. It looked like something you'd find in a Phantom, except it was shaped for a motorcycle. The tank was a different nightmare. I wanted real wood inlays, like the dashboards in vintage Rolls-Royce cars. Do you know how hard it is to bend wood to fit a curved gas tank? Very. The answer is very hard. I went through 4 different woodworkers before I found someone willing to even attempt it. He charged me $6,000 and told me up front there was a 50-50 chance it would crack during the shaping process. It didn't crack. It took him 8 weeks, but he created these gorgeous walnut inlays that flow along the sides of the tank like water. When the light hits them right, they almost glow. That's the kind of detail most people won't consciously notice, but subconsciously, it changes everything. Now here's the part where everything almost fell apart. Remember how I said the difference between cool and dangerous is about 3 millimeters? Yeah, I learned that the hard way. We assembled everything, the frame, the engine, the custom suspension that cost another $4,000. The hand-built exhaust system? All of it. It looked absolutely stunning, like a piece of rolling art. I took it for the first test ride in an empty parking lot. Gentle, just getting a feel for it. And when I went to brake, nothing happened. Well, not nothing. The brakes worked, technically, but the stopping distance was about 3 times longer than it should have been. Turns out, when you make a motorcycle heavier and longer than normal, the standard brake setup doesn't quite cut it. Who knew? Apparently, everyone except me. I had to completely redesign the braking system, upgrade to a dual-disc setup in the front, add a bigger caliper in the back, and recalibrate everything. Another $5,000 and 2 weeks of work. But here's what I learned during that terrifying moment, when I realized the brakes weren't strong enough. Building something beautiful is easy compared to building something safe. You can make anything look good with enough time and money. Making it actually work, making it reliable, making it something you'd trust with your life, that's the real challenge. After 93 days, $28,000 more than I budgeted, and approximately 200 moments where I questioned every decision I'd ever made, it was done. This Rolls-Royce motorcycle that probably shouldn't exist, but somehow does. The first time I took it out on real roads, people lost their minds. I got pulled over twice, not for speeding, but because cops wanted to look at it. I had strangers offer to buy it at gas stations. One guy followed me for 3 miles just to get a video. It has this presence that's hard to explain unless you've seen it in person. It doesn't look like a motorcycle trying to be a car. It looks like something entirely new. Does it handle like a sport bike? Absolutely not. Does it go as fast as a superbike? Not even close. But that was never the point. The point was creating something that makes you feel a certain way when you ride it. Something that turns a commute into an experience. Something that reminds you that vehicles can be more than just transportation. The Spirit of Ecstasy hood ornament, by the way, I had custom made in stainless steel and mounted it right above the headlight. It's technically pointless and probably adds wind resistance, but every time I see it, I smile. That's worth something. Here's what this whole project taught me. You can build anything if you're willing to accept that it's going to cost twice as much and take 3 times longer than you planned. Also, brakes are important. Really important. Never skip the brakes. Would I do it again? Honestly, I don't know. Ask me in 6 months when my bank account recovers. But I will say this. There's something incredible about taking an idea that exists only in your head and making it real, even if that idea is absolutely ridiculous.